Welcome to Bicycle Retail Radio, presented by the National Bicycle Dealers Association. This is where bicycle retailers, industry innovators, and advocates come together for real conversations about what's happening right now in bike retail, from cargo bikes to carbon fiber. Each episode explores the challenges you're facing, the opportunities ahead, and the people driving our industry forward. We go beyond the surface to uncover practical strategies, fresh perspectives, and authentic stories from shop owners who've been where you are. Whether you're navigating staffing challenges, adapting to market shifts, or looking for your next breakthrough idea, this is your community. Since 1946, the NBDA has been in the trenches with specialty bicycle retailers, providing education, advocacy, and connection when you need it most. Want to be a part of this community? Learn more about NBDA membership at nbda.com.
Let's be honest, running a bike shop is a lot of work. Between inventory, service orders, and online sales, there's a lot to manage. That's why this episode of Bicycle Retail Radio is proudly sponsored by Lightspeed. Lightspeed powers modern retailers with advanced inventory tracking, built-in work orders, and seamless e-commerce. You can even source products right from inside your POS. If you're serious about growing your bike retail business, visit lightspeedhq.com. That's lightspeedhq.com. What you're about to hear is a recording of the NBDA's Bicycle Industry Retailer and Supplier Best Practices panel. The bicycle industry is navigating real headwinds: excess inventory, shrinking margins, reduced foot traffic, staffing challenges, and shifting consumer habits. This panel exists to meet those pressures head-on. 3 times a year, the NBDA brings together retailers, suppliers, and industry leaders to share best practices and build collective strategies for stability and growth. Topics come straight from members, and sessions are built all around practical solutions that you can actually use. If you'd like to submit a topic or get involved as a panelist, reach out at info@nbda.com. Now, here's the panel.
All right, thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. Welcome to today's NBDA Bicycle Industry Retailer and Supplier Best Practices panel. Today is Tuesday, May 12th, 2026. My name is Megan Schmidt, NBDA Programs Developer, and today's panel will feature a dynamic 2-topic agenda designed to foster open dialogue and collaboration between retailers and suppliers in the cycling industry. With both sides of our industry adapting to challenges and opportunities in 2026 and beyond, we're approaching this as a working conversation. So one where panelists and attendees who are just joining us can share real-world strategies, share lessons that you've learned and applied to your daily business, and also think of forward-facing ideas to strengthen retailer and supplier practices and relationships. This all is the goal to elevate our collective success. So a little history on this session. The Retailer Supplier Best Practices panel was established in 2024 as part of the NBDA's advocacy initiative. This is a triennial platform for industry leaders to come together, exchange proactive ideas, and develop solutions to shared challenges. A lot of energy has gone into making this panel a resource for the entire bicycle industry, not just retailers and suppliers, but for everyone invested in our shared growth. This event, as a reminder, is open to all, and we encourage everyone to learn from, consider, and respectfully engage with the ideas and perspectives shared here today. Thank you to all of our panel members, retailers, and suppliers who are volunteering their time and expertise to the discussion today. If you're joining as a viewing participant, we welcome your participation. You're welcome to place questions into the chat or the Zoom Q&A function. You're welcome to do so there anonymously as well if you choose. Throughout the event and discussion, our panel members and the NBDA staff will monitor this, and some questions might be answered live. We can bring them up to the speaker and the group, and others might be answered directly in the chat. Please don't hesitate to share your thoughts as the discussion unfolds today. Today's meeting will also be recorded and available on the NBDA YouTube channel shortly thereafter. And with that, I would like to welcome Peter Henry, NBDA board member, as our opening speaker to give his remarks. Thanks so much for being here, Peter.
Okay. Well, thank you, Megan, and thank you, panelists, and thank you, everybody who's tuning in. I really appreciate your being here. We have two great topics today. In a way, they're both about ways that retailers could be providing even more value to suppliers. They can also touch on that retailers need to be fairly compensated for what we're already doing, and for anything more that we do, that needs to be compensated, or we just can't afford to do it. But even with better compensation, bike shops might still be the low-cost provider for services that suppliers need to serve their ultimate end users. Bike shops provide a great many services to customers. Mostly, we have good explanations of what we offer, how we add value. I fear we're not as good as explaining what value we bring to suppliers and to the industry as a whole. I mean, we just do a lot to enable people to ride bikes, and if people don't ride bikes, they're not going to be customers of the suppliers either. We've seen plenty of examples of big suppliers who knew so much better than we bike shops did how to run bike shops, bought a bunch of bike shops, and now they've closed a lot because they just couldn't connect with customers the way that the independent management did. Touching on one of our topics specifically, I've had a number of bike suppliers over the years express interest in talking about how to better share inventory risk. Frankly, I don't know that they really did want to talk about that. I think sometimes they're just looking to shift risk our way. Somebody said, I'd love to have that conversation. I said, well, yeah, I'd love to have it too. When can we do it? And he said, I'll get back to you. And it never happened. Another time, I'd worked out how it could work for us so that we'd, with an affordable inventory plan, we'd be able to take care of the vast majority of potential customers with bikes either in stock or available quickly if the supplier could supply in a particular way. And I mean, that was the best conversation I had, but it only went that far. That supplier looked to do what we'd asked, but they didn't say, oh, well, gee, if we could do it this way, if you could do it this way, then that would dovetail better with what we're capable of doing. So there's a lot of potential for better conversation here. So hopefully we'll have some ideas about some tools here that we can use as shops and as an industry to make this work better.
Thanks so much, Peter, for those examples and optimism. And I'd just like to share as well your expertise at Landry's too. So tons of great information and expertise to bring forward to this group. Thank you so much.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
Oh, no, please continue. Sorry about that.
All right, so I was going to say inventory risk is a real thing. It has costs. The need for diagnosis of equipment, especially e-bikes, is very real. It has costs. Simply being prepared to make a diagnosis has costs. If we're expected to do that, nobody's going to pay us for it. It's not going to happen. And yet, by having bike shops around the country that can diagnose could save suppliers of e-bikes a lot of money and a whole lot of pain with dissatisfied and unhappy customers. On the inventory side, I've had a couple of things I've always lived by. One, if you never need to mark anything down, you didn't have enough inventory. On the other hand, if you had enough inventory to make every sale, you had too much. One means you're going to have excessive markdowns. One means you're going to be missing too many sales that you could have made if you'd had more inventory. Part of the solution is to have a goal for how much are we going to have to mark down. And, markdowns are good. There are customers who can't afford a regular price. But boy, when they can get that deal, they'll come in and they'll help to clean up our inventory for us. So those are important customers, but you have to budget for it. And if a supplier thinks that, oh, at this margin that we're offering as their starting margin, retailers can make ends meet. But no, that's not what our margins are going to end up at, because there are inevitably going to be some markdowns. And if that's not part of your plan, then you're damaging, as a supplier, you're damaging your retailers. And with damaged retailers, they're not connecting with as many customers as they could be connecting with and making the industry grow. The follow-up key to that is have good conversation between suppliers and retailers how we're going to manage inventory. And I know in the highlights piece for this, they talked about a few different strategies that could be used. Let's talk about those things. See, well, okay, what can we as a retailer of my size, what can I do? And one problem that we as retailers have is that we have to both forecast what are our customers going to be buying, but also what are our suppliers going to be able to supply. And with those two as variables, we are just totally lost in space. I mean, there's just no way. Suppliers also need to worry about, okay, what will the end consumers be buying? But they are petrified of things like that a shop, when they get really busy and they're moving a lot of product, will be too busy to sit down and put it in order to replenish what they've sold. And boom, suddenly they got no access to the market. Or even worse, some slick salesperson comes in, and even though the retailer promised, oh yeah, we're going to do this much business with you this year, they let some slick salesperson fill up the warehouse with some other product because they gave them a deal. And as a result, then suddenly they get no access to that dealer either. So it's really important that we each understand what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be managing our inventory and moving through the year. And without that, we're all damaged. So there's plenty of opportunity to reduce the costs of inventory risk, starting with good conversation, asking each other to improve processes in ways that will be mutually beneficial. Right? If we have, here's what we need, and the vendor can say, well, there's this way to do it, or this way to do it, or this way to do it, but this way is going to cost us a lot less and might be almost as valuable to you. Okay, let's decide to do it that way, and we'll adjust our buying plans to work with that. I mean, right? Conversation can be so powerful. We need to improve each of us needs to improve the way we manage our inventories, because only in doing a good job do we get the right to ask somebody else to improve. I hope that today's panel will provide plenty of food for thought on how to do that and leave each of us with an action item or two, something that we can take home and start doing and start trying to make our industry a better place to do business. Thank you. Back to you, Megan.
Thanks, Peter. That's such great information. And I love the message underlying of bringing home an action item and also making sure that we're doing a good job when informing others how to do a good job. So thank you so much for that opener and kind of mindset shift there. Appreciate that. And for today's agenda, as I mentioned, we have two exploration topics. The topics are submitted by NBDA membership. I'll give a quick overview on how to do that towards the end too, if you're looking to participate in a future panel session. And for today's forum, I will read the topic question, kind of a question and summary, and our panel members who have volunteered to speak on these items will talk, and then we'll move into a live Q&A. We have about 60 minutes today, so depending on time, if you feel like you had a comment or question and were not able to submit it today, you are also welcome to continue this conversation by emailing me, Megan, M-E-G-A-N, at nbda.com after the session. We're always happy to get everyone's voices heard and involved. And lastly, just a kind reminder to keep the conversation collaborative and solution-oriented, to echo what Peter said. So topic one today, inventory risk and open to buy, balancing responsibility in an unpredictable market. Understatement, right? How can retailers and suppliers better share inventory risk in an unpredictable market? And what new models, be that flexible ordering, consignment, extended dating terms, or smaller batch replenishment as the new norm, can create healthier inventory flow without overburdening either side? We have three speakers on this topic today. Our first speaker is Patrick Clapp from Citrus Lime. Patrick, thank you so much for being with us and sharing today.
Sorry. Thank you for having me. So Quick disclaimer for this. Some of what I talk about today is going to be a little bit difficult for everyone involved to hear. I fully understand that. Just know that retailer, supplier, does not matter. We love you, hugs and kisses, but we have a very big task ahead of us. Also, before I get into this, I know we've all been thinking a lot about wheel sizes lately and certain things that are coming down the pike that we may or may not be excited about. But I think it's really important to think about what the wheel is. It's a system of structures that all share tension in order for it to ride effectively. And I think we all know that when a wheel is well tensioned, the ride is infinitely better than a wheel that is not well tensioned. So just think about that as we move through this. So the question, as Megan just put it effectively, is how do we share the risk, right? I'd like to start by asking a different question. How do we create a profitable, equitable, and sustainable system where product moves unimpeded through the supply chain while remaining resilient against predictable and unpredictable market conditions? Now that absolutely defines, sharing and managing risk, but it also means clearly identifying risk before it starts. In most cases, the problem may seem like it starts with the product sitting on the retailer's floor for too long, but the uncertainty started well before that bike even came out of the mold. The lack of clarity on consumer demand, mixed pressure signals from suppliers, biased buying strategies, and lack of visibility into the performance of products across the chain all contribute to the uncertainty and poorly managed risk. Now, inventory is not just your products. It represents investment, margin, floor space, and risk. It defines what you can, and if you are even able to, spend later on. A bike that sits too long is not sitting in a vacuum. The profit timer starts the moment you lock capital in that product. Now, here's a really hard and uncomfortable truth. Try to channel Jay Townley right now. Really hard and uncomfortable truth. The moment you purchase that bike, you often have weeks, not months, to turn that product into a successful profit opportunity. This goes for retailers and suppliers. It's really important for us all to remember that. Most of us have inventory in our stores or our warehouses that have been there for so long that even if we sell it right now for the original margin, we are still losing the wholesale investment that we started with. To make matters worse, evidence of this dead stock very rarely finds its way upstream in a meaningful way so that buying decisions are curtailed to reflect the poorly performing product. Balance is key, right? So why do we keep falling over? Let's take a gander at what we're doing. And again, deep breaths here. Retailers, we don't make commercial buying decisions. We very often make emotional buying decisions, whether this is buying more than we think we need or not buying any at all. Pre-seasons are built around gut instinct, not sell-through data. Aged inventory is discovered only once it starts causing pressure and has already lost its value. Retailers lack data-structured workflows that provide clarity so that they're essentially flying blind. They provide no clear signal upstream when products or categories underperform. Then the open to buy strategy gets treated like a spending requirement, not a discipline. Suppliers today, they tend to load the floor. They let retailers absorb the variance. Suppliers, because factory purchase orders are based on pre-books, then pre-books are on a gut instinct, then ultimately the factory purchase orders are based on gut instinct. Stock levels inconsistent because suppliers are also flying blind. Cost pricing and MSRP are variable based on overstock pressure that the supplier has. Programs and dealer agreements reward buying more rather than simply buying enough. The retailer's floor is ultimately used as a supply chain suspension system. No one individual tier of the supply chain can shoulder all of the risk. That's not realistic and it's not a system. The old model does not work. The new one needs to treat all of the challenges and all of the players as part of an ecosystem that needs balance to roll on. So, how? Well, it starts with data transparency standards. That's how. Not the kind of standard that endlessly increase wheel sizes, mind you, but an actual standard that we can all get behind that works for everybody. Retailers can bring suppliers significant accurate inventory. This means making sure that when a supplier looks at the supply chain at the retail level, they get a very clear understanding of what's moving and what's not moving. This means sell-through data, category performance, giving an idea of age, stock, and lost margin reporting. If they do have to discount, why do they have to discount? The open to buy mentality adds a whether to buy mentality. They also can then commit timing on when new orders will be placed. Suppliers can bring retailers flexibility and transparent availability. Sorry, flexible and transparent availability. They can offer realistic order minimums and season-specific terms. They can add initiatives that reward proven data-driven sell-through. They can have programs that don't penalize discipline or reward gut instinct overbuying. And they can also replenish stock based on feedback loops. The game is what partnerships can be the most effective at managing risk together and reaching the end of the season with the most amount of their investments turned back into capital. The true efficient wheel standard. When clean data flows between every tier, the next season buys itself. It gets purchased against actual sell-through data, identified underperformers, and real confident consumer demand. What this produces is a system where production matches reality. Factories can build to verified demand, not preseason optimism and gut instinct. The system can remove underperformers when they're caught early. Dead stock signals inform buying decisions well before the next commitment is up to the plate. It also builds a healthier system each cycle. The margin and cash, customer satisfaction, all add up each season. This system is a wheel that truly rolls over every obstacle easier every season. I hope you guys will permit like the subtle jabs. You match my risk and I'll match yours. Gambling is not risk management. Healthy risk management will not come from any one of our organizations getting better at guessing. It will only come from us all agreeing to measure the risk well before it becomes a problem and managing it as a system if it does. Our company, Citrus Slime, stands to help all of the trade organizations, even outside of our business with point of sale and e-commerce and supplier integration. We want to nurture this kind of system because this is the kind of system that is profitable, equitable, and sustainable. Thank you all very much for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Great overview. Really appreciate that. And yeah, please reach out if you missed the QR code and wanted to get in touch with Patrick. Can you just read off your email real quick or pop that into the chat?
Yeah, I was just about.
Awesome.
The Women in the Bicycle Industry Summit is coming to Bentonville, Arkansas on June 11th. Our Weeby Summit is free to attend and value-packed. Expect to connect with peers and mentors, hear diverse perspectives from bike shop owners, brand leaders, and advocates that are shaping the industry. And take some time for you. Explore career growth and networking opportunities. Plus, the Weeby Summit coincides with our Retailer Summit Central and Bentonville Bike Fest, giving attendees a full week of events and engagement, and a perfect reason to make the trip. Register now at nbda.com, and we'll see you in Bentonville.
Our next speaker is Michael Forte, owner of the Bike Shop List. We really appreciate you sharing your expertise today, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Happy to be here and always happy to talk about inventory. And I've actually written on this before, but in preparing for this NBDA panel on inventory risk and open to buy, made me realize something that in the past, my guidance has been more general. And what we really need is some specifics. So I am going to get more specific today. Um, and we're going to look at three products: product A, product B, and product C. And yes, it's straight out of an ABC analysis, and that was intentional because every retailer should be running an ABC analysis on their sales and inventory. It's fast, it's simple, and the insights are enormous. So to keep the math clean, they're identical in every way, these three products. They retail for $100, they cost $60, they have a $40 margin. The only difference would be velocity. Product A sells 240 units a year, product B 120, and product C is 12. And when you run your ABC analysis on this, you see something interesting where the top 33% of the SKUs generate 65% of your margin dollars, and your bottom 33% generate 3%. In the real world, it's similar. It's actually even a little more extreme with your top 25 generating 75% of your margin. And that's why the ABC analysis matters. Most of your margin comes from a small portion of your assortment, and most of your inventory risks comes from the rest. So breaking it down into what to do about it. Product A is your revenue engine. These are the SKUs that pay the bill. You can't afford to lose sales here, but you also don't want to drown in inventory. So when supply is abundant, you can push your turns. In some instances, you could achieve 12 to 18 turns a year. That's absolutely possible. And it frees up working capital for everything else. But when supply is constrained, that's when real inventory management shows up. And one of the terms I'm going to talk about is GMROI, or gross margin return on investment, which is total margin dollars divided by average inventory cost. And here's where you really want to work with your suppliers and your sales rep to create a yearly inventory plan. You want to maximize your turns and GMROI, but you also want to minimize the risk. I mean, if you have an item with 240 unit annual demand and $40 margin per unit, your margin at 3 turns is $9,600. If you lose 1 turn from stockouts, you're down to $6,400. And even if you take inventory risk and buy 80% of your annual demand up front, yes, your GMROI drops from 2.0 to 0.8, but you protect $3,200 in margin. And even at a 10% cost of capital, that's only $672. It's not risk, it's insurance. And I've used this in the past where my supplier, while they make great product, they were always running out in season. So I worked with them 1 year, forecasted sales April through September, bought 80% upfront, and I never ran out. My supplier did, but I didn't. So work with your supplier. Pre-books is one of the way to work with it. And I know it gets a bad reputation, but when used intentionally and you commit to taking product and they commit to having it, work with your sales reps on sell-through information, as Patrick was talking about. It can help unlock opportunities that you were unaware of and prevent you from making purchasing mistakes. And even get creative, create custom programs that work for you. If something makes sense for you and your supplier, they'll be open to it. And I've even created container programs for retailers before that were a win-win for both. That's the partnership you need. Product B is set it and forget it. These SKUs matter, but they don't need your daily attention. That's where automation earns its keep. Leverage your point of sale system, set a min and max, let the POS handle the replenishments, spend your time on product A. The goal here isn't heroics, it's consistency. And then product C. This is where discipline is required. This is where retailers get into trouble. It sells slowly. It generates very little margin. It multiplies your SKU count, and it consumes cash and space. And because we're in a product-driven industry, these are the hardest to control. We love the cool stuff, the 32-inch wheels. We want to say yes to every customer, but that's not sustainable. If you need it for customer experience, stock the minimum viable assortment. Ask yourself, do you need every size, color, and model? Or do you need one or two to represent the line and the rest can be ordered? Most suppliers can deliver in 2 to 3 days, and most customers will wait 2 to 3 days for the exact product they want. If you don't need it in stock, be ruthless. One vendor lists 13 bottle cage models with 21 SKUs. You don't need all 21. I was in a retailer whose tire wall was crazy. They stocked just about every brand of tires. There's no need for that. Pick what drives the margin. Stock narrow and deep. Leverage supplier inventory for the rest. Use dropship where available. One supplier I worked with exposed the full warehouse inventory to their own retail sites, and sales exploded because the customers can finally see everything. Unfortunately, they launched it the week before Black Friday and had to shut it down because the warehouse couldn't keep up, but that's a good problem. You can offer the same breadth without carrying the same burden. And you should be leveraging the tools that are offered to you. And we already have a lot of these tools to solve their problems. They're just underutilized. This was brought up before, inventory sharing. If you're not sharing your inventory with your suppliers, you're leaving money on the table. When suppliers ship everything into retail, the inventory becomes invisible to most customers. So sharing inventory maximizes sell-through. And tools like Workstand, Locally, S-Connect, these tools already exist. Leverage it. Another thing that gets a bad rap is buy online, pick up in store, or click and collect. And yes, you lose some margin, but you also avoid overstock, discounting, dead inventory, and focus your dollars and your time on the A products that matter. And then point of sale system. As mentioned before, leverage that. Leverage your POS for replenishment. All systems can do that. The bottom line is every SKU must earn its space, not emotionally, not aspirationally, but financially. And that's why sell-through and GMROI matter. They don't just measure margin, they measure velocity and tell you whether a product is contributing to your business or consuming cash. And if you get this right, you don't just reduce risk, you unlock profitability. The ABC analysis gives you the map. The GMROI tells you where to invest. Together, they can help you build an inventory strategy with your supplier that's intentional, profitable, and sustainable. And that was it. That's it for me.
Thanks for breaking that down, Michael. And for the reality check, definitely appreciate it. And I think we can all relate to that C product, right? We appreciate that. Our third speaker today on this topic is Greg Britton of Wheel Sport Bikes. Greg, thanks so much for bringing your perspective today.
You bet. Thanks for having me. You hear me all right?
We can. Yes, thank you.
So what I want to talk about is just a complete inversion of the way things have been done. I've been in this business since 1980 in retail, so 46 years. And one thing that's been consistent is the way we've done business. And there's been some great information today about data and analyzing, and it's definitely helped. I employ a lot of those strategies, but it hasn't changed the way we've done business. So in those 46 years, our cost of doing business, and I've been at a few different stores. The first 20 years was a family store in California, now in Spokane, Washington, but really nothing's changed. Our cost of doing business is probably from lowest to highest of every place I've been. It's probably been a 3% swing. That's it. It's always been the same thing. And every year the results are pretty much the same thing. That's because the way we do business is the same every year. So in a really good year, and I think this tracks with the industry, in a really good year, if everything goes right, we might see 3% net profit. There's just nothing to get too excited about, and that's if things go right. Any mishaps along the way, risks we shouldn't have took, things outside of our control, and all of a sudden that 3 goes to a -3 or worse. We just had our peers, one of our good shops in the area after 22 years, multiple stores just closed. That shop was a great shop. They were well loved. Customers loved them. They probably had the strongest social media game I'd ever seen. But yet they took some risks and it didn't work out and they're gone. And my brother just closed his store. So my brother and I have been in the business the same amount of time. He had a store that he just had to close. And it's just one of those things where we've been doing it the same, but stuff's gotten harder, right? And now we have, over those decades, we had further reduction in margin. The direct-to-consumer market's responsible for a lot of that. And then one thing that I think makes the timing interesting for a change, and this has been going on for a while, is that brands got into retail. Peter talked about this at the beginning. One of the reasons brands got into retail is because, like always, they think that markets are underserved. Specialized, which is my main brand's always telling me how much more money they should have in this market than we're doing for them, or if they only specialized dealer in town, and their data says we should be doing X number of dollars in your market, and we're not. So I think that was one of the reasons that brands went into retail. They wanted more market share. They thought they could do it better. They could cut out kind of the middle. And as I travel around, like I'm sure all you do, to different shops through the years, one thing I found consistent with all the independent retailers is the staff. The staffs were amazing. The dedication, the knowledge of the community, the knowledge of the product, the service level, outstanding. I go into brand stores and the merchandising, the product, beautiful. The staff, not so good. Pretty consistently not so good. And it's not too surprising that, you know, all the independent retailers, which are bulk owner operated, just have a different level of passion for the sport, and they know their community better. They know the product well. They just have a real excitement for what they're doing that lacks at the corporate store. So this whole time, as we've talked about here, the shop's taking the bulk of the risk, but the brand's pulling all the levers. A good thing for this year, for us, example that, you know, we can have all the data, is that Specialized is currently out. It's May. It's busy. April, May are my 2 busiest months. They're out of core product, a lot of it, and I mean out. It's not like they don't have that size or that one color. They don't have anything. So now I'm stuck with this lever that they control being something I can't do anything about. They don't have the product. So now that I'm in jeopardy of that formula going bad. So here's my suggestion. Retailers' strength is in community, is in product knowledge, is in fitting, demos, all the service level, all these things we do really well. The brands do really well with product, design, marketing, merchandising. So we've started this conversation with Specialized. We'll see where it goes. We want to lease them space in our store. They can put in, we'll provide the sales staff and the expertise, the community knowledge. They can lease as much of the store as they want. They don't want brand competition, great, lease the whole floor. It's all yours. You decide the price. You decide what product goes in it. You merchandise it however you want. You want to put something on a discount? Okay. The lease payment is consistent. It's our profit. We know our overhead. We know really close exactly what it's going to cost us to do business. So we can price our lease per square foot accordingly. So it's guaranteed profitable. They can do whatever they want with the product. They run out of product, they can put different product in. Our lease payment's the same. or consistently. So that pressure of us making money and having the right thing is off the table. So we can even concentrate more on what we do well. They can merchandise their strength. They always think we need different product than we have. You need these bikes. Why don't you carry these bikes from us? Great, put them in there. Price them however you want. Want to put them on sale? Put them on sale. Doesn't matter because all that money's flowing through. That's not our money, it's their money. So every month or every quarter, whatever, we write them a check for everything we sold. We get our lease payment from them. So it completely reverses. It plays to the strengths of each side. They get their corporate store without the corporate headache. Because when I talk to Specialized about their corporate stores, they're not real thrilled about the retail business. They really don't want to be in it, and they're not very good at it. And the part they're not good at the most is the staffing. That's where they struggle. They don't have the passion. They have great product. They know that. They have great merchandising. They know that. They struggle with the staff. So give us that. That's what we're really good at. They can take the rest, and everybody wins. So curious what people think of that idea. And has anybody approached it? It's similar. Some people talk about consignment. Consignment still takes too much risk for the store, and the example of Specialized being out of so much core product is a great reason why consignment is something I still don't want to do. Because if you don't have the product, then consignment's worthless to me. I'm still not going to make the money. But if you lease, the payment's consistent, and I can take that worry and that risk off the table.
Greg, thank you so much for sharing. That seems like a different idea, right, than a lot of us in typical brick and mortar have encountered, but there's big box retailers doing this every day, right? So really appreciate too what, for lack of a better.
Then other industries do it, right? Exactly.
For sure.
This isn't unheard of. It's just unheard of for us, but the bike business has tended to kind of run a little behind, and it's time to maybe kind of rethink the whole thing. I think. For us, I think it's a realistic. I don't think this is realistic for everyone. So, the qualified sum, Wheel Sport's been here 52 years. We have a long-standing relationship with Specialized. We know each other well. I think that's important for both sides to buy in. They know who we are. They know how we move product. They know what we're about. We know them. We know how they work. Right. I don't think you could do it with a new shop. You wouldn't have the credibility. You wouldn't have the relationship. So it probably is something where that's why I think for us, the timing's right. We know each other well. We will play to our strengths. And so I think there is some caveat there to who it works for. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be shops that say, I have no interest in that. Sure. One reason maybe being that it's capped. The ups, it's all fixed, the profitability, which to me, when I'm looking at, 3% as a great year and, 0 to loss is a very good possibility. I will take a fixed income all day long.
Right.
I'll set the number where it's profitable. And, it could be multiple brands. It could be one brand. It doesn't really matter. We'll figure out our lease payment per square foot of sales floor. And, go from there.
Good conversation to start here. And again, our goal with this panel is not only actionable items, as Peter pointed out, but also new ideas. So appreciate you, Greg, not only sharing, I think, what is amazing about every independent bike shop today. Absolutely love that, and love that you've been there 52 years. That's huge. We'd love to open it up to questions or comments from other panelists today. If you're joining as an attendee, feel free to pop that into the chat or the Q&A. And before we move on to topic 2, we'd love to ask if any of our panelists had any comments they'd like to add or any feedback to share on the 3 presentations today.
I have a question for Greg.
Thanks.
Greg, when you said you were pretty consistent with being 3% up each year, are you taking that as a percentage of value, or are you taking that on your total cost of goods of doing, or total cost of doing business versus revenue? The hidden question is, are you accounting for inflation and CPI when you're calculating your 3% kind of fixed?
Yes.
Great question. And yeah, I think a great comment too is the individual nature of specialty bicycle retail is such a diverse category. So A lot to kind of take in and also think about your own situation, no matter what part of the industry that you're in. So thank you for the great discussion on this. Just a lot of great insights, diverse viewpoints, and we appreciate everyone sharing on this topic. Just in the interest of time, we wanted to move on to topic 2. That topic is service complexity and shared responsibility. Another, you might say, bit of a hot topic sometimes today. As bike models become more complex with proprietary components, for example, internal cable routing more standard on a wider range of models, and various e-bike systems and related diagnostic tools, how can retailers and suppliers better align on service expectations, support, compensation as well, to ensure that repairs remain profitable, efficient, and customer friendly and customer facing across the industry? Our speaker today on this is Michael Pasquale of Micromobility Connect. And we're excited to see what you have to share today, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. I'll just pull this up to just let me know when you can see it, the presentation.
We can see it. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I just wanted to say and start off, but I'm going to share my real world experience. I started an e-bike shop 15 years ago. No playbook, no blueprint. I didn't come from an already established bicycle shop. I just started an e-bike shop in a northern climate with a very short selling season, and took that risk. So no blueprint, no guidance. Bought my opening inventory, filled my showroom, and sorry, I think Greg's unmuted. Bought my opening inventory, and 5 of those bikes didn't work out of the box. So now what do I do? No training. I don't have a clue what to do. So I called the manufacturer, and they sent me a box of parts, controllers, motors, throttles, harnesses, and said, you'll figure it out. Just swap the parts and it'll work out. And I did. And it took me, I'd say, 1.5 to 3 hours per bike, depending on what the fault was. So I want to share that experience and then the aftermath of selling all these bikes and the service and chaos that it created that a lot of shops are experiencing today. A lot of shops introduced e-bikes the same way I did. No blueprint, no plan, no, playbook, essentially. So I'm using my shop as the model, and I'm taking the e-bikes, a blessing and a curse, from an email that Heather sent out on the 29th of April. If anybody read that, it's pretty interesting. It's a shop that kind of is going through a bit of chaos as well. The same chaos I kind of went through. So we want to move beyond, want to get operational clarity through my real world experience and moving beyond the practical, moving beyond theory to practical proven shop workflows, and learn how we transformed our e-bike service into a structured, profitable model, because that's where a lot of shops seem to be struggling. Everybody put e-bikes in their showroom, and yes, they sell great, but it's the service side of things that really became the bottleneck in a lot of shops, the dialogue with customers, the profitability side of it. So the industry is experiencing growing friction around e-bike service. The customer expects quick answers and predictable repairs, right? They just have a bike. They think it's a bike. They can bring it to any shop, and they're going to get the same service you would get your car fixed or your bicycle fixed with. And dealers are basically struggling with inconsistent diagnostic times and profitability. It's a massive struggle in a lot of shops right now. Most service departments are living through that exact chaos. So why am I using an example of my shop? I want to share my failures and how I overcame them and succeeded. So it's built on real experiences, the direct challenge. These are operational hurdles that I experienced firsthand inside my e-bike shop. So I think everyone will get a lot out of this, of the struggles that I went through and how I overcame them. I want to demonstrate some operational clarity. So exactly what true operational clarity looks like in practice when it comes to e-bikes. A lot of shops are doing everything well with the bicycle side, and they're incorporating a lot of the bike side to the e-bike side, and it's not a good fit. It doesn't work the same way. So I want to try to show some separation in getting chaos to order. So real world examples of shifting through the inherent chaos of e-bike services. So my struggle. So once I built those bikes and I got the 5 that weren't working up and running, could put them in my showroom, I then had sold a lot of bikes and then had those customers, my customers, come back. And when they did, I was charging an hourly rate. At the time, I think it was $50 an hour. And then they would say, I created friction. I didn't even know I was doing it. As soon as I said $50 an hour, the next question was, well, how many hours is it going to take you? And I couldn't answer that because I don't know what's wrong with the bike. So I'd say could take an hour, could take 3 hours. They authorized the hour. I'd put a full hour in, but not with any process whatsoever. Just checking connections and praying something looked damaged or I could find it, obviously. And then I'd swap parts and kind of guess at what it was. And, I'd put an hour in, call the customer and say, look, we put an hour in, didn't find it. Do you want to authorize another hour? And I'm going to talk about how that ends up in 3 bad outcomes for us as a shop and how it ended up in a really bad outcome for me. But that was one of the struggles I had, that initial dialogue with customers. And with that, I was forced to build processes solely around e-bikes, not bicycles, right? So 15 years I spent doing this and failing and then living and learning and changing and evolving and making it better. And we were able to get our customer expectations changed. We were able to have great workflows for our technician, and the service department became more structured, predictable, and profitable for us. So from the second the customer came in the door to the second they left, we were able to have a process from beginning to end, much like the cycling industry has for bicycles today. So today, if a customer arrives at the store, they have expectations to fix the electrical issue. And we're talking about hub motor bikes here. Proprietary systems like Bosch, they have training attached to it. And a lot of shops already get that training for mechanics. So we're talking about strictly hub motors. Our bikes need to go through, and then safety inspection happens before entering the shop because we don't want unsafe or uncertified batteries even crossing our threshold. So there's an inspection that happens for many reasons. One, to check tires, safety issues, and point those out to the customers while they're there. The other one is to make sure they're compliant and safe. So we'll do a battery inspection, look for damage, and check for UL compliance. So this is something that we do with every bike. Number 4, we want to set very clear expectations, because if you don't, you're going to create friction, confusion, and misalignment. So we're very transparent at our shop. We converted the process of saying it's this much per hour and instantly creating friction on how many hours, and implemented a flat diagnostic fee up front. So it's a flat diagnostic fee. Some shops make it refundable. We don't. We need to put the time in to diagnose that bike. So again, traditional conversations, how much per hour, how long will it take? Modern e-bike service requires those diagnostic fee before repair estimates. You cannot give an estimate on something you don't know what's wrong. Our customers, we require them to pay in advance for that diagnostic fee when they drop off their bike. Why? A lot of shops are facing people dropping off their bike, getting it diagnosed, and never coming back for it. And we're not getting paid for our time. And a lot of the times, 80% of our repairs those bikes weren't purchased at our shop. We don't have a relationship with that customer. So they don't feel obligated to pick up their bike, which creates chaos, right? But that intake conversation is important. And what that looks like is, if you were to walk in our shop right now or call us, we would let you know that instead of having that hourly dialogue, we would say our certified e-bike technicians can diagnose your bike for you. We're going to go through and check every single component individually to see what passes or fails. It's $150 flat fee when you drop off your bike. Big contrast from hourly rates, right? It's clear, the expectations are set. We're not going to do any work until we find out what's wrong with it. Then we'll call you and let you know. There's no friction. It's completely frictionless. And that took me time to get there. It did. I went through hourly for a really long time. So we couldn't implement that fee. There's a lot of moving parts here. We couldn't implement that dialogue and that fee unless our technicians could get a result quickly and efficiently. Because if they took 3 hours and we only charged the flat fee, we're not making any money. We're losing money. So over the years, I only stuck with our own brand and we made it policy. But we had so many other brands knocking on our door that we knew those were opportunities that we were missing. So over the years, instead of swapping parts, I started creating a diagnostic platform that was repeatable, that we can diagnose a bike in about 15 minutes. Once I created that on the back end, I then turned around and said, okay, we can fix the front end dialogue now, because we have a process that we know is not going to take us hours to figure out, or guesswork, or rely on support. So we had that repeatable process. Technicians need structured, consistent diagnostic paths. And our goal is outcome focused. We're going to find the answer for you for a flat fee. So the goal is not billing hours, it's producing a clear, accurate result. And the three bad outcomes from hourly was we'd have to keep watching time and call them back for every hour. And at the end, I felt bad if it was $50 an hour and we spent 3 hours not charging them $150 and them taking the bike that we didn't fix, or charging them half, or charging them nothing, which a lot of dealers are doing. We can't be profitable doing that, and we can't help our communities doing that. So we added a lot of professionalism in our shop. We moved away from part swapping, trial and error, which gave us that flat diagnostic fee. We're self-sufficient, so we don't rely on support for our outcomes, because those could mean filling out service tickets, waiting hours or days, and not getting the right answer at the end of it all, getting parts that don't work. What predictability really changes is it's stable. You have predictable diagnostic creates predictable days. If you're swapping parts and you don't know if a bike's going to take 1 hour or 3 hours, you can't plan your days properly, because your technician could be, going for a 3-hour ride on that bike trying to figure it out. We significantly reduced our labor leakage inside troubleshooting chaos. So we're not swapping and guessing. We have a consistent process where now we can actually get the bike done. And the growth side of it improves your scheduling, profitability, and those dialogues with the customer. So it ticks off a lot of boxes that I really struggled with, that I was able to change. So the bigger opportunity is this is bigger than diagnostics. It's about redefining the business model. So what I did, now that I had all these processes and procedures in place, I used it as a traffic driver to my store, because 80% of the bikes in my city weren't purchased at my shop. Now I'm driving new traffic in. Some of those bikes, we can always get a diagnostic from it, but sometimes parts aren't available. And there's nothing we could do about that. Those naturally and organically turn into sales for us, which is great. So we've used our service center as a traffic driver. We have strong service operations, build long-term customer trust, and the community impact has been huge. Better systems in our shop allowed us as retailers to better support local communities of people that otherwise wouldn't have came in our shop. So I took this inspirational quote from Heather in that email on April 29th, and it says, often the paths that are hardest to walk toward or away from are the ones that lead to the greatest growth. So the most chaos and the biggest struggle is e-bikes in a lot of shops, and it's the brands you didn't sell. That's where your opportunity is, on the other side of that pain. You just have to fix the processes you're using today, because I went through the same pain, and I was able to get everything running very smoothly and align the same high level of service you provide with bicycles and bring that e-bike service on par with that. And it's very possible. Some of the panelists here have gone through our training program that we offer as well. So closing thought, the future of e-bike service is not hourly uncertainty. It's predictable and professional systems, structured intake, predictable diagnostics, trained technicians, and professional customer experiences. The shops that adopt this will be the ones that thrive in the e-bike segment. If you want to connect with me and you're struggling with any of the topics that I've overcome in my own shop, feel free to reach out. My email address is there. I'll be happy to guide you through it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. Great presentation. I couldn't help but reframing that question in my mind, that the topic too, of thinking these are all interconnected, right? E-bikes to complex service on any type of bike that we're encountering more today. How you kept coming back to how you frame that to your customer base, and obviously wasn't an easy journey, but I think that's what I'm leaving this conversation with too, is just thinking about how we can frame the quality, complexity, like everything Greg mentioned, everything mentioned today. Bicycle shop does so much complex work, whether that's admin, operational, customer service, fitting. It's an amazing industry. So just really reflecting on that and seeing that, making sure we charge what we're worth, making sure we convey that well, and making sure that is across the board understanding. Really appreciate those thoughts today. And I know we are getting close to time, but I would just love to see if any of our panelists had any comments they would like to add to Michael's presentation there. If not, I will bring it back to Peter Henry, who we greatly appreciate, with closing remarks for this discussion today.
Well, thank you so much, panelists. Thanks everybody for being here. Boy, there are people here that I really enjoy talking with and hearing from. I mean, when I hear Michael talking, it just takes me back to the 70s and 80s as I was getting Landry's, moving from being like the third biggest shop in a small town to on its way to becoming the biggest in a 6-state region. And yeah, it was listening to customers and spotting things like that. Oh, give them certainty for here's what this is going to cost. And for this price, we're going to make sure everything is wonderful for you. And just great. I struck, no one thing is ever 100% true. And one thing that struck me in the conversations about, oh, we buy with our gut instead of with numbers. And we should just lease the space to the vendor and let them put on whatever they want. And I'm not sure it's a serious suggestion to let them rent 100% of your space. Well, if you let your key salespeople pick where 0.5% of your inventory purchases go, well, it's small enough that it doesn't really matter if you make money on that product or not. But that stuff is a key to getting that enthusiasm, can be, depending on what your market and area is, can be a key to having that enthusiastic, super knowledgeable staff. And so here's again where the analysis is important. You can budget for what that's going to cost you. And if you keep that this small, but it gets you this much in enthusiasm in your staff and get your staff willing to work at a barely livable wage instead of looking to get competitive with what they might make somewhere else, and those things can be important too. And this is why it's so important that you have conversations, you stay aware to possibilities, and just always have just always keep an open mind and just keep on learning. And yeah, if you can get that 0.5% down to 1/4% and get that same enthusiasm, well, now it's costing you even less. So thank you all, and thanks panelists. This was a wonderful presentation.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Peter. I love that. Yeah, I love how you always frame that conversation and also bring that employee's enthusiasm into focus. Just like Greg said, it's some of the best staff in all of service, retail, you name it, in bicycle shops across North America today. So great way to focus on that. And thank you, Francis, for hosting on the next meeting that is scheduled. So for the next industry retailer and supplier best practices panel, we have a little break here that is scheduled for Tuesday, December 8th, 2026. We hope to see you all there. As we mentioned in the beginning, we also hope that you will share if your topic comes to mind, if there's something that you want to see discussed. We have amazing panelists, as we can see from today, on that volunteer their time for this panel. And we'd love to hear more from folks who are either attending, listening to this on YouTube, or hearing it on a podcast on the NBDA. We'd love to hear your voice as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, my name is Megan at nbda.com if you have ideas for future topics, or if you would like to be on this panel as well. On the topic of data, a great way to leave everything today. We do have a meeting coming up in June. That is going to be on Thursday, June 4th from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. This will be the Human Powered Solutions, NBDA, and Track Flight team discussing the NBDA Market Intelligence Program on product performance, trends, benchmarks, sell-through. So lots of great data. If this conversation left you wanting more certainty where you can have it, please join us for that discussion as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. Thank you, Patrick, Michael, Greg, and Michael. and Peter for sharing your expertise. We really appreciate everyone's input on these panels, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.
We all know that running a retail business isn't just about selling bikes. It's about efficient operations and great customer experiences. And with Lightspeed, you can stay on top of it all. Manage everything from sales and inventory to work orders, all in one place. Source products directly in your POS and make smarter decisions with powerful reporting. Learn how Lightspeed helps bike retailers work smarter at lightspeedhq.com. That's lightspeedhq.com.
Thanks for spending time with us on Bicycle Retail Radio. If this episode resonated with you, subscribe and share it with another retailer who could use the insight. Join us every week for new conversations and fresh perspectives to keep you ahead of the curve. The NBDA is constantly creating events, webinars, and resources built specifically for bicycle retailers. Check out what's coming up at nbda.com. Shout out to Francis Abbott for today's graphics. Interested in sponsoring an episode or know someone we should talk to? Head to nbda.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time.